So today I want to talk to you about mind control. Something come across my desk, and I believe, especially in the internet age, I believe in synchronicity. There are things happening on the other side of the world that's affecting us here. There's riots in Egypt, and you can go to freeamerican.com and you can see it happening live over there. You've got a group of protesters now. They've launched the pro-government people after them. Guns are ready, and that's what we've been set up for here. You got the Democrats, you got the Republicans, you got the pro-government, and you've got the mind control. The mind control. And that's been going on for well into 100 years. 100 years. Ronald Reagan's birthday today, he would have been 100 today if they hadn't tried to kill him. And succeeded, one way or the other. It's mind control. Orchestrated by the banksters. They've got the most to gain, the most to lose. They finance both sides of the wars. History's got it down, and that's why you've been dumbed down as a public. They don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know that. A few days ago, we talked about how the FBI came to one of my guests. Why are you going to be on Clay Douglas's show? My question is, why would you care? Who's Clay Douglas? I'm nobody. I'm an old biker from Texas. Been riding for almost 50 years. And I know there's some of you who have a Christian identity, Christian assholes out there that don't like it because I'm a biker. Don't like it that I've walked on the wild side, that I've explored the everything, even to the insides of jails and prisons. I wanted to know. And I wasn't put in prison because I robbed anything, because I took anything from anybody. I was put in prison because I preferred to smoke pot as opposed to being a drunk on a street corner or an executive sipping martinis in a bar. But I've been the executive in the penthouse. I've worked with major companies, company startups, and have been partially responsible for some of them. Because I wrote the stories about them. I told the stories about them. I've been a communicator. I've been writing for almost as long as I've been writing. Maybe longer. Maybe longer. I'm also very well read. I read every science fiction book in the library before the age of 12. Which means I've been exposed to some of the greatest thinkers in the world. Robert A. Heinlein, Isaac Asimov. Everything you watch on television right now stems from their ideas, from their concepts, their thoughts. I, Robot. Robert A. Heinlein talked about freedom, talked about liberty. He'd like to see every man armed. That is what they fear. That's what they fear. Now, since I started the militias, helped start the militias, me, John Trogman, Mark Kornke, John Stadmiller was there with Mark Kornke, Bill Cooper and I were broadcasting on a certain way. We were in on the movement. And suddenly, according to Clinton, Bill Cooper was one of the most dangerous men in America, and we were And I sat in Bill Cooper's living room. We agreed on just about everything. And starting the militias, I got demonized by the ADL, by the Southern Poverty Law. And it didn't matter what I did, whether I was with a presidential candidate or training people, American citizens, in the use of firearms and training them about the Constitution and about the role of the militia, which is every able-bodied American between the ages 18 and 45. Why? And suddenly I was demonized. Not that I had that great a reach, but maybe my reach is a little bit more than most people realize, because Ron Paul was a subscriber of mine for 10 years. We spoke together. We sat in a booth together. We liked each other. We got along. And then you look at somebody go, oh, you know, Ron Paul's a racist. You know, it's divide and conquer, and that's what's been done. And that's what's been done to me. That's how I've been used. Suddenly, Clay Douglas is there. An 8-year-old report from Southern Poverty Laws in the NAACP. Now, the more one researches mind control, the more one will come to the conclusion there's a coordinated script that's been in place for a very long time with the goal to turn the human race into non-thinking automatons. For as long as man has pursued power over the masses, mind control has been orchestrated by those who study human behavior in order to bend large populations to the will of a small elite group. Today, we have entered a perilous phase where mind control has taken on a physical, scientific dimension that threatens to become a permanent state if we do not become aware of the tools at the disposal of the technocratic dictatorship unfolding on a worldwide scale. Modern mind control is both technological and psychological. Tests show that by simply exposing the methods of mind control, the effects can be reduced or eliminated. At least for mind control, advertising, and propaganda, more difficult to counter are the physical intrusions where the military-industrial complex continues to develop and improve upon. Like the laser that could take out the oil tower, folks, up on my website, freeamerican.com. Now, here's 10 phases of mind control. And this is all happening right now, folks. And I've told you that the mind control, they don't call it programming for nothing. They don't call television programming for nothing. And I've told you that the schools aren't exactly educating you. They're not teaching you to think creatively. They're teaching you to be automatons. They're teaching you to do this, to do that. Come on, folks. Now, this information has just come out. It's just up on the internet, and I'll have it out shortly. But frankly, Douglas, I wrote this over 10 years ago. You were bred to be a slave in a tightly controlled society. Your chains are invisible. Your schools teach you to be content with your lot in life while they train you to follow orders. Your history's been changed gradually. Your grandfather knew more than your father and less than his. You're poisoned at birth by mercury. Contaminated vaccines, a time bomb, if you will. The poisoning continues throughout your teenage years and adulthood. Cigarettes, alcohol, aspartame, sugar, makeup, and McDonald's-style fast foods kill you slowly but give you pleasure. Add hard drugs like ecstasy, and prescription medications, and your mind and body deteriorates until you're no longer able to discern reality. You're fed politically correct slogans, urged to forfeit your manhood by the movies and TV, which also tells you who you can vote for. You and your countrymen are drained of your income by fads and taxes. You're told it's okay to pay for your house and car 3 times. Bible readings discourage us as it was during the Middle Ages. And by the time you wake up with what they have done to you, it's It's time to die or check into the rest home where you're fed more drugs. And if you die before the induced senility sets in, the government charges your family a death tax resulting in their selling off the family business or farm to pay the inheritance tax. Your final years are filled with doctor visits, suitcase of pharmaceuticals, and finally you're taught that your oppressor, your exploiters are the chosen one, the elite of the Bible too. That too's a lie. To deny you your birthright, make you believe this is the way it's supposed to be. Time to wake up, get back to the basics of liberty. You know what liberty has been told to you by your founding fathers. They told you what happened if you let a bank issue your money. Thomas Jefferson told you. No, we followed the Hamilton side of it. Now, education is the first one. It's the most obvious, and it remains the most insidious. There's always been a would-be dictator's ultimate fantasy to educate naturally impressionable children. It's been a central component to communist and fascist tyrannies throughout history. No one's been more instrumental in exposing the agenda of modern education than Charlotte Iserbite, who was on my shortwave show years ago. One can be 10 years ago. We were telling you this about you how you were being enslaved, and Charlotte's husband just died of cancer, I believe. She did a book, Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. I'll put that out in my email so you can actually get it and read it. The second is the advertising and propaganda. Edward Bernays has been cited as the inventor of the consumerist culture that has been designed to primarily target people's self-image or lack thereof in order to turn a want into a need. This was initially envisioned for products as cigarettes, for example. However, Bernays noted in his 1928 book Propaganda that propaganda is the executive arm of the invisible government. This can be seen most clearly in the modern police state and the growing citizen snitch culture wrapped up in the pseudo-patriotic war on terror. I've told you too, the war on terror is a war against anybody anywhere in the world that doesn't want to go along with one world government. If you don't want to go along with one world government, then you're anti-government and you gotta be demonized. That's and the reason I started Free American is because of the increasing consolidation of media has enabled the entire corporate structure to merge with governments, which now, what have I told you? I can't tell you whether the government took over the press or the press took over the government. It now utilizes the concept of propaganda placement. Media, print, movies, television, and cable news can now work seamlessly to integrate the overall message, which seems to have the ring of truth because it comes from so many sources simultaneously. When one becomes attuned to identifying the main message, one will see this imprinting everywhere. It's not even to mention subliminal advertising. Okay, let me check on my let me check up on my chat room here. Yes, Lady K is telling me that Harp's incurred over $250 million tax-funded construction operating costs. It's also been blamed by conspiracy theorists. Yeah, well, you can't be a conspiracy theorist, folks. That's too dangerous. Okay. A few people up here on the chat room. Okay, yep. Dr. D-Charge will be on my program on Friday, next Friday. And okay. Now let me go back. Oops, let me show you how we're doing here. Okay. Yeah. That time's right. Okay. The third on the steps in this modern mind control, folks, Many deny that predictive programming is real. I would invite anyone to examine the range of documentation put together by Alan Watt and come up to any other conclusion. Predictive programming has its origins in predominantly elitist Hollywood, where the big screen can offer a big vision of where society's headed. Just look back at the books and the movies you thought were far-fetched, science fiction. Take a closer look at society today for detailed breakdown of specific examples. Vigilant Citizen is a great resource. Maybe probably make you look at entertainment a completely different way. And, we just went through sports. Every eye was glued to the Super Bowl. Some might take offense at seeing religion or even politics put alongside sports as a method of mind control. The central theme is the same throughout: divide and conquer. How many times have you heard me say that? The techniques are quite simple. Short-circuit the national tendency of people to cooperate for their survival and teach them to form teams bent on domination and winning. Sports has always been a role as a key distraction that corrals the tribal tendencies into a non-important event, which in American history has reached ridiculous proportions, where protests will break out over a sports celebrity leaving their city, but essential human issues such as liberty are giggled away as inconsequential. Political discourse is strictly in a left-right paradigm of easily controlled opposition, while religion is the backdrop of nearly every war throughout history. And that's what are they setting you up for right now? The Third World War, they predicted it, they planned it, all the way back in Albert Pike's day, all the way back when the Confederacy was being overrun, when we were being enslaved. And by the way, see on my website, we're all Indians now, what Russell means. We just went to the Super Bowl. Billions of dollars poured into an event that's reduced to a trophy on a wall. And 400 people got shut out, but hey, they got triple their money back. No problem. Now, also what I've talked to you about. 20 years ago, if you mentioned anything about Florida, my God, you were crazy. However, now the additives, toxins, other food poisons literally alter brain chemistry to create docility and apathy. Fluoride in drinking water has been proven to lower IQ. Go to Walmart. My God, go to Walmart. Talk about lowering IQ. Aspartame, MSG are excitotoxins, which excite brain cells until they die, and easy access to the fast food that contain these poisons generally create a population that lacks focus and motivation for any type of active lifestyle. Most of the modern world is perfectly groomed for passive receptiveness and acceptance of the dictatorial elite. And if you choose to diligently watch your diet, they're fully prepared to spray the population from above. Folks, I came out with the chemtrails, the video, well over 10 years ago, almost 50. Clifford Carnicom, one of the main experts on the thing. It was on my film 9 years ago. Yes, let me bring up my friend Grandma. Hello, Grandma.
Hi. I just sent you a humongous email package, and now this has gone on up to Treasury.
Okay.
Right, not Treasury, the Justice Department.
Okay.
Now this involves and this needs to be posted. It needs to be made public everywhere.
All right. That just came up.
And it's Project Hammer. Remember Project Hammer?
I believe so.
Okay.
That's going after the banksters?
Yep. And so this is their bank accounts, who all was involved, everything.
I will add that, Grandma. I am just reworking the website and updating the website now, and this is we've been under psychological warfare. Why? I've kind of figured it out. I've been talking about all of the controls.
Well, I'll tell you what's happened before you get into a long story. I'll tell you what happened.
Okay.
When this situation here, this this camera situation, this was hijacked by the Bush Greenspan North group Clinton at all. And parallel accounts were set up. Well, there was, I forget whether it was 14 trillion or 17 trillion in gold that was involved in this. And the gold was literally stolen. That's what Russell was murdered over. And remember when they wouldn't let me have, he died on the 29th of August. And they wouldn't let me have his body until the 5th day of September, 1994. When I thought Russell was dead, they took that old man, as sick as he was, and you see the condition of him in those photos. They took him over and used his fingerprint and his voice to activate those accounts. Because they were fingerprint voice activated. Now, the Federal Reserve and Bush and all of them have taken, because you see that receivership the Federal Reserve had on the United States had expired. They had to have another way of getting back in control over this country and other countries that were the United States allies. So what they did, they hijacked all of this gold. They've got the Eggers in there to put up more contracts over in Riyadh and Ramada and the China banking. Well, they took all of that gold and put it over in the OITC. Well, after they murdered Russell, then they found out, guess what? Russell didn't own anything. And that's why they came in the last quarter of 2010 and made an offer to buy this trust. Because the Federal Reserve and the Chinese banking, English Chinese banking of Citigroup and that bag of bastards, were going to come back in, JP Morgan, all of them, going to come back in and be the saviors of all of this financial crisis with what they had stolen there. And that's the story right there. You don't have to go into anything else. That's it. I underwrote, I used my gold assays for 13,520 acres to underwrite these accounts, so they could bring the gold home, and they could get this back. The United States, pay off the Federal Reserve and get the United States back as their own. This was what Harry Truman set up his group to do. But he did not set up this rogue agency that's out there terrorizing the world with private contracts on private CIA. He did not.
So we've got two factions, and somebody's on our side, somebody's on the side of the Republic, somebody's on the side of truth and justice. I keep hoping that's happening, and hopefully that's in the documentation that you've just sent me, Grandma.
Well, it is. It is. And if you will see, I also sent that to Unwanted Publicity, because he's been investigating this. David Guyette was involved in this banking transaction. deep black lies. You remember David?
Yes.
So he was involved. He was one of the things. So now we've just got crap happening all over the place. And so
What's your take on what's going on in Egypt, Grandma? Was that is that
that's CIA all the way. That's CIA, and they're using the Mossad out of Israel to keep. Those people weren't even. They hadn't even picked up a rock that no one had called anybody a dirty name. Not until they shipped it. Israel shipped in that batch of trash in there to create the violence. And the people there, and I will tell you what I think is going to happen, and I believe I'm going to be proven right. You know, I told you Tim Turner to scare the hell out of me.
Yes.
And these FEMA camps, you know about those.
Yes.
All right, now here's what's happening. All of the food prices are so damn high, and the cost of gas, the cost of everything is so damn high, and people are jobless. And they can't afford all of this that they're shoving off on them. That's what the situation is over there in Egypt.
No, George Bush
now,
gave to
wait
he.
a minute.
Go ahead.
Let me finish.
Go
You
ahead.
asked me, and I'm going to tell you.
All right, go ahead.
Now, you've got 190 million American workers, and their unemployment is going to go out here in about the next 30 to 60 days. It'll expire. So will their food stamps. And you're going to see that same thing happen here in the United States. When that happens, all of those people that Tim Turner has got rounded up, plus the others, will be rounded up, thrown in FEMA camps, just like the Nazis did on Crystal Mountain. This is what's coming down the way. You ask me, and I'm telling you, I've been investigating this for far too many years. Now, I've shipped all of this up to the Justice Department. They're taking us till to get it. The reason why, it's just like I told the other agent that I said, you know, if it wasn't for us old agents out here connecting the dots and having the evidence, I said these younger ones wouldn't have a leg to stand on. They wouldn't know where to start. And I said, this is something that was already looked at, but due to the people that were involved, such as Greenspan, Bush, the others, and the banks that were involved, it was kind of shoved off to the side. And I said, the Justice Department needs to take a fresh look at this with a fresh eye, because this is what went down. And I'll tell you what, they're pissed that it was slipped off, that the job wasn't done the first time. So now then, you've got the story right now.
I will get that up on the website today, Grandma.
And you can repeat me what I'm saying.
Well, that'll be done anytime anybody clicks on the show. You were my surprise impromptu guest because the guest I had scheduled didn't show up, and I really appreciate you being on. You know, we've been talking to each other a long time, and you know, hopefully, you know, I think I'm right in doing what I'm doing, which is bringing the kind of information that you've got, you know, and I've been absorbing your information for 15 years at least. And passing it on to people. If we can become aware, then of the mind control. This is mind control that the people have been under. Just like I said, they don't call television programming for nothing. The schools are designed to take you there, and we're falling for it. You are a breath of fresh air. You're like a straw, you know, when the room's filled with water. It's really refreshing, and it's wonderful to talk to you and have you for a friend.
Well, thank you. You know, as I was told, talking to the other operative, we're no longer active. We've been operatives for years. And connecting the dots, I've never been hired out. They destroyed my records. No, they can't even find me. But anyway, here's what these people have done. They've taken us old people that work, we work
Okay,
our
hold it just a second, Grandma.